Hey, Peter.
Okay,
Peter.
I would request, hello. Sorry guys. Yeah, I would request all of you to just type your name and what you do and where are you joining from in the chat box, so we all know who are joining, who are there, and from where. Let's take a minute for this exercise and then we formally start our session. Let me type as well.
So I see
Hi, Maria.
I see Kolkata.
Hi, Peter.
Greetings.
Welcome.
India.
Hi, Lyssa.
UK.
Hi.
Dublin.
Long time after we met in Missouri.
It has been a long time.
Hyderabad, India. Dublin, Ireland. Carolina. Again, India. Well, we have quite a global participants here.
Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah. Cool. So welcome once again, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time zone from where you are joining. We are here today with our special guest, Lyssa Adkins, along with the founders of Personal Agility System, Peter and Maria. So the agenda of the session will be like, Maria will first give us a brief introduction about personal agility, in case some of us are joining for the first time and is not much familiar with personal agility system. So we'll spend 8 to 10 minutes there on the introduction of personal agility. After that, we'll go with Lyssa's segment. Lyssa will be sharing her experience of using personal agility system, how it helped to navigate her life during this pandemic. And we'll spend around 20-25 minutes there. After that, we will go to the Q&A section. Whatever questions, queries, thoughts you have to share with us, feel free to type those questions, thoughts in our chat box. Lyssa and other also will address those queries, and we'll close the session with a closing note / thought from Peter. We are good? Okay, so let's start with Maria, the co-founder of Personal Agility System. Over to you, Maria. Please share a brief introduction of PAS with all of us.
Yeah, thank you, Piali, for the great introduction. Appreciate it. We're really excited to have all of you join us today, and very excited to have Lyssa share her experience using the Personal Agility System. As we get started this morning, I'd like to share an overview of what personal agility is and how these simple 6 questions can change your life, and using this as a simple framework to do more of what matters. So Peter Stevens and I have been collaborating around this concept of personal agility over the last 4 years, as we recognize that this is a challenge that a lot of people have, and we had this challenge ourselves. And I'm curious, how many people here joining us today, how many people does this resonate with? Having too much to do, not enough time to doing it, being overwhelmed, having just an endless backlog, an endless list of things on your plate. And how do we navigate being busy all the time and making sure that we can do the highest value things, the things that matter most in our life? And we're so often familiar with running around busy all the time that it seems to be business as usual. That seems to be something that we accept. And what's interesting is that when you can take a step back from being in the mix of it all, we can actually choose differently. We can choose to do the things and make time and space for the things that we find most important, rather than feeling like we're just being dragged along with whatever our schedule is for the week. So having too much to do and not enough time to do it, this is a screenshot that Peter had shared of his calendar and email inbox, and how many windows are open, and trying to keep up with everything. And it's something that I can relate to quite a bit. Always there's something else. But what's really interesting is if you look at everything that you have on your plate that you could do, if everything matters, then nothing matters. If you're trying to do everything all the time, how are you able to hone in on what is really the most important? And so what we'd like to invite you to do is to take a step back and look at a holistic view of everything going on in your life and say, what really does matter to me? And if you can get clarity on that, if you can visualize that, and if you can have some accountability on those things that matter, what starts to happen is it can become easier to say no to the things that don't matter because you have so much clarity around what does matter. And that's exactly what the personal agility system is all about. So when you think about impacts and doing what matters, the demand of things to do is often a larger list than the capacity that we have. And the limited amount of time and capacity that we do have, we want to focus that on doing the things that really matter. And when you look at the other things that don't align with that, we could just call that waste. That's other stuff we could do, but it's not necessarily in alignment with the things that are most important to us. And if you ever have that ambition or that goal of maybe it's in your career or something with your family or a hobby that you've never quite gotten to, well, maybe it's because you've been doing all these other things. And yeah, that's good. You're going through life, but when you aren't cognizant of that, when you're not aware that you're making those conscious decisions, that's where those compromises come in. And then one day you realize I haven't quite gotten to achieve those things that I really wanted to in your personal life or throughout your career and in business. So if we can spend more time with putting our capacity and limited time that we do have toward the things that matter, that can allow us to have a lot of clarity around what doesn't matter and what we shouldn't spend our time on. So to get the right things done, there's 3 basic skills that we want to master. So the work that you do, the priorities that you set, and then questioning, is this the right stuff? Am I on the right track? And as we cycle through this, many of us here may be familiar with the concept of agile, and we want to do things more efficiently. We want to be able to respond to changing things in our environment and adapt. And as we do that, we want to make sure we're doing the right things, not just doing stuff faster or more efficiently, but doing the right stuff in the first place. And so we look at this as 3 areas that we cover. So from the head, the body, and the heart. So at the head, we're thinking through, what are those priorities? We're logically looking at what comes up next that I do. And then in our body, we're doing the work. We're taking those steps to perform those tasks. And, questioning with the heart. We want to check in and say, is this what really matters to me? Is this really in alignment with what I value? And so by sort of spot checking it and going back and forth with those checks and balances, this can help us make sure that we are doing the things that we find important and that we do want to do. So I want to walk through the 6 questions of personal agility next. And this is a simple framework to help you do more of what matters. And it's on a weekly cadence that we look at this. So the first question, one of the most powerful questions, is what really matters? And I remember when Peter asked me this question about 4 years ago at the Scrum gathering in Munich, Germany, it really floored me because I realized that what I thought that mattered didn't even matter at all. Like I thought I was doing things that mattered, but I never really took that step back to ask this question. So I'd like to invite you to think about this question for yourself and what really matters with you. And then we want to start by looking at, what did I do last week? If you're not sure what really matters, well, look back at what did you do last week? Because apparently whatever you ended up actually doing is what mattered because that's where you spent your time. That's where you put your attention. We call this the breadcrumb trail. Looking at the breadcrumb of where you've been as an indicator of where you will go if you continue on that pattern. And we want to celebrate what you achieved because what you did is good. You got something completed. And if you want to choose differently, you can make that choice going forward if you want to change anything. But whatever you did complete, we want to feel good about that. The next couple of questions are looking at examining what are possibilities. So what could I do? What are some possibilities? And at this point, we're just speculating, what could I do? And maybe even just brainstorming. And this isn't necessarily locking it in yet. We're just looking at what those possibilities might be. And then also asking what's important or urgent. If I don't do something, could something bad happen? What might that look like? Is there anything I absolutely need to get done this week? And then from that, we triage across, what you could do, what's important or urgent, might take another look at what you did last week and say, of those things, what do I want to actually have in my plan for this week? What is done at the end of this week is going to be in alignment with what I say really matters to me. And this is your opportunity to choose. You are the captain of the ship as you go on the journey of your life, and you get to choose what you want to have that is your reality week in, week out. And so this is the cycle that we call the Celebrate and Choose event. So once a week, you're going to sit back, take a step back from all the details and say, of all of these things, I'm going to celebrate what I achieved, and I'm going to choose what I want to do moving forward. Is last week the ideal week? If I carbon copy that forward, will I be satisfied with this next week? Or do I want to do something different? Because you have who you are and what you did, and then we have stuff that we can do to get closer to who we want to be. And there's another question that we add in here, who can help? Because if you ever get stuck, this is where if you have a roadblock, we want to look at what could I do differently? And if I couldn't get this done myself, maybe there's someone that can help. And we even look at one further step. Peter and I were talking about an additional question to add, what would make me happy? And spot checking, of all the things I'm doing, am I doing anything out of obligation, or am I doing things that are in alignment with what would truly make me happy? And this way we can have the absolute integrity with ourselves and what's important to us and how we want our life to be. So we want to start by visualizing your priorities map. And you can do this, you may be familiar with a task board that Agile teams use. It's similar but different because we have the things that really matter are 3, maybe 4 things maximum. And we want to limit you may have heard of limiting work in progress. We want to limit the amount of things that really matter, because that way we can be much more focused on actually achieving those things and getting those things done, rather than having a bunch of stuff that might overtake our schedule and get an inch progress in multiple areas, but not a mile progress in any one area. So notice that we have color coding here with the little dots. So you can see what are the things that I'm planning and how do they align with the things that I say that matter. And at a glance, you can see where your color coding is pointing out what's most important. So here we see a lot of yellow, which business is a big priority here. At a glance, we can see that. And so it gives us that visibility and some accountability. So we have the possibilities, the urgent, the plan for this week, and maybe even get a plan for today to be very specific about what you're going to achieve. And then we mark things done and create our breadcrumb trail as we go. So if you don't know where you are, it's hard to get to the destination. And let's say we're trying to get to a destination from Portugal to Jamaica here. We want to have that clarity on where we're going. And if in case we happen to get blown off course, we want to be able to recognize that and course correct. It's okay if you get blown off course. You just want to recognize that and be able to get back on course. So as I wrap up our overview here of the personal agility system, it's a simple coaching framework to help you or others become what you want to be, who you want to be. We also can look at this as really it's a way of providing and having that visibility and being able to make sure that the things that you say are important, you're in alignment with your actions. And so when you look at the personal agility system, it's a simple framework. And one of the things that we put together is a curriculum around helping you walk you through exactly how to identify what really matters and being able to have that consistency as you go through day in, day out, and from week to week. So one of the programs that we put together is the Personal Agility Recognized Practitioner, where you can begin to apply the personal agility system. And we've got some coaches and trainers that will work with you to guide you through for 4 weeks to become a Personal Agility Recognized Practitioner. And so we can have more information available on that as well as follow-up from this session. And I'm going to pass the baton back over to Piali as we get ready for our guest for talking about personal agility for our roundtable today.
Thank you, Maria. Before we move to the next segment, I would like to request you and Peter, why don't we share the glimpse of that video you created a few days back, maybe a minute of that video, the wrap. So guys, we have a very interesting video here from DJ Maria, along with our CST and personal agility coach, Maria. So please share that video or maybe for a minute, Maria.
Okay.
So this was for
Actually,
the
Piali?
Agile. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Okay. Well, I've got the video queued up. What I'd like to do is, we talk about the simple framework for changing your life, and we talked about the ambassadors, and I'd like to give a shout out to a couple of people who are here. First and foremost, the culinary queen, Sharon, who in my humble opinion is one of our most inspiring from struggling to thriving stories. And you can really make, with clarity of purpose and maybe a little bit of help from your friends, you can make really amazing changes in your life. We've got a number of people here who are either ambassadors or on the road to becoming ambassadors and trainers of personal agility. I saw Jim Hannon. I saw and now, of course, I'm totally blanking out because I don't see anybody. They've all gone away. Where'd they go? So we've had Jan. We have Jan. And where is Shweta? So I know we've got at least 3 people here, and I probably missed someone, and I apologize if I have. So let's move on to the video. Does everyone see Maria getting ready to do her thing? Here we go.
Invite Joe Justice to join me for my intro here. Thank you, Joe, for joining us. And we just want to tell you a little bit about when we talk about personal agility, what we're really talking about here. Because when you apply Agile at work, it works, but you can also apply Agile in your life, and you can get amazing results. And so we just want you to know that it's never too late to make the moves that you want to make, and Agile can help you do that. I'm here to tell you all about personal agility. Live your life on your terms, sidestep that fragility.
We want to help you learn. We want to help you live. All the Agile knowledge is what we're here to give.
It's a warm summer day and we're spending it with you because we got the heart of Agile and the Agile values.
Removing those impediments, helping teams settle it, creating mass values so stakeholders will celebrate.
Goes way beyond Agile in the teachings that we give. When you apply Agile to your life, that's when you can really live. Doesn't matter where you're at, you can never lose. When you've got this Agile framework, all you gotta do is choose. Choose the life you want, make the path you walk, embrace this Agile framework and you'll know it's worth the talk.
Cause we're never gonna stop, they're never gonna know. If they never try it, it's never gonna show. We're out here talking about personal agility, respecting and adapting, and we apply transparency.
With the heart of Agile, you know you gotta use it, because we're here to collaborate, deliver, reflect, and improve it.
Agile is for everyone, use it in your life. When you apply this simple framework, you'll never feel the strife.
It's a revolution happening all over the world. You'll hear it here first, now let your dreams unfurl. Joe, thank you.
Maria.
So, as we talk about personal agility, this is really something that it gets incredible. Like Joe, you've applied Agile in hardware. You've broken world records building cars. You've been doing radical innovation. And I appreciate you helping me kick off this session here. And what
That was awesome.
Whoa, that was straight from Miami, Florida.
That was the Agile 100 conference about 2 weeks ago, and Joe was kind enough to join me so that we could have our intro to my presentation on personal agility as we rapped about personal agility. So we hope that you enjoyed that.
Cool, cool.
We have rock stars here along with the coaches. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So moving ahead to our next segment of this session, I would request Lyssa to take over here. And yeah, I mean, Lyssa Adkins doesn't need any introduction. It's a well-known name already. In case any of you are listening to her for the first time here, Lyssa Adkins, she is a coach, a facilitator, an inspirer. She has been inspiring us with her work and contribution to this Agile community for a long time. Since 2011, she has been a member of IC Agile Working Committee, which defines the Agile coaching and Agile facilitation best practices. In 2010, she has authored a book, Coaching Agile Team. Even after 10 years of publication, it's still a bestseller. And Lyssa has been always very focused towards the empowerment and amplifying women's voice. She has co-founded 10 Women Strong, which is an initiative to bring online and in-person programs to the women in agile community. Well, if I keep talking about Lyssa's contribution, Lyssa's work, so it will take the whole session. The 1 hour will be less. So I won't take much time of yours here and would request Lyssa to take the show forward. Over to you, Lyssa.
Thank you, Piali. That's very sweet. What a warm introduction. And thanks for allowing me into your community and this roundtable, which you have been doing for a while.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, Lyssa. Like, as I have already shared, for me, it's a total fangirl moment to host you here. Thank you.
I like it.
And Lyssa, again, nice background.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your
It's my new
background is
accessory.
nice. Yes.
Yeah, I don't wear jewelry anymore because it interferes with the headphones. But you know, I can change my background to match my
I
clothes.
can see that. I think a couple of days back, it was another nice background.
Yeah. So I had the great good fortune almost 2 years ago exactly to this time to spend some time with Maria and Peter in Lisbon, Portugal for the Experience Agile Conference, to which we were all speaking at. And that's when they started talking with me about personal agility. And I just looked in my personal agility breadcrumbs trail. I started using it in mid-October 2018. So coming up on my 2-year anniversary of using personal agility to have more fulfillment and clarity in my life. And what I want to share with you is how the kind discipline of personal agility has made it clear to me when I need to radically shift my priorities and the forces in my life, and what that actually practically looked like for me and looks like still in the pandemic era that we're all in. So I'll just share a few thoughts and a few slides with you. And then I really want to have conversation and Q&A with you. So as I go through this, as you have a question, pop it in the chat, because that's going to be a really great way for us to have a rich conversation afterwards. So let me just take a moment to share this screen. And Maria has covered a lot of this terrain already. So, you know, even prior to COVID-19, for most of us, we were sort of running around like crazy people. Just as she said, doing a bunch of stuff, getting, you know, a tiny bit done, but nothing done fully. And as a result, living lives that didn't feel completely fulfilled. And what I love about the personal agility system is that we're taking what we know about how Agile works and applying it to being transparent and choiceful in our own lives. So this is what was happening prior to the pandemic. And then now, after the pandemic, we have even more going on. I mean, how many people have their kids at home right now? I have dear friends who were looking to hire my daughter to be the proctor for their 3 children, while those children are on 3 different devices with 3 different virtual school teachers, and then these 2 people have to do their job all in the same house, and how are they going to get all of this done? And so many people are facing that right now. So many people have lost a job. So many people have lost a loved one or a friend. So many people are running from one Zoom meeting to another, and this video conference fatigue is real, you know. And in general, if that's not enough, in general, if we really pause and take a moment to feel into what's happening, we can feel the existential risk of the human species right now. And that is a hard thing to be with. So prior to the pandemic, this is what I was up to. This is my actual forces map, or like the things that really matter to me. Maria said this starts with asking the question, what really matters, right? So on January 1st, this is what I was up to. By this time in the year, I thought I would have worked with several leadership teams and done systems and human systems coaching with them. I thought that I would have figured out how Agile could be useful to people responding to climate disasters. And I was even dreaming that I would have co-deployed into a disaster and actually figured it out on the ground with people. we had 10 Women Strong programs scheduled for the whole year that we were ready to go on. We had people signed up for them, and some that could stay virtual did. The others got canceled or postponed. I mean, it was just an earth-shattering thing that happened to me when the pandemic hit. Because not only did all of those things sort of not make so much sense anymore, I immediately had, as you probably did, a whole new category of concerns. All of a sudden, my world became very small. I became very concerned about the health of my family and my parents who were in their mid-70s. My husband is 69. You know, like, how are we going to keep everyone safe? And how are we going to deal with the fact that my business just got decimated? You know, like, I had 5 months of activities I was doing, and all that revenue disappeared overnight. So, and if that's not enough, I, who am aware of the existential threats to our species, because I've been studying this, I've been contemplating how Agile could help actually in some of these planetary systemic issues, I'm feeling the loss and the sorrow of so many lives lost, so much suffering, and then all the fault lines that get exposed in the way we're currently managing our lives, and how that has created such difficulty, such challenge. Right? So I realized that my priorities map no longer worked for me. It felt weird to me to think, am I really going to go out with an advertisement now and like write a LinkedIn article to try to attract executive teams to work with me, when I really want them to spend their money on keeping people on the payroll? Like that, it stopped working. And the beautiful thing about personal agility was that I was able then to ask the question, okay, this is a new world for you, Lyssa. Now what really matters? And without the personal agility system to sort of throw it in my face that my prior way of working wasn't working as well, I don't think I would have adjusted as quickly. And I don't think I would have been as healthy as I have been able to be during this time. So this is what my forces map looks like now. It's like totally different. Now, Maria will often say, hey, your forces map, you know, what matters to you shouldn't really change very much over your lifetime. And I think that maybe that's true, depending on the granularity of your categories. Mine tend to be fairly granular, as you can see, like specific things I'm doing. And I also notice that I have more than the recommended amount. So do not take my example as the perfect exemplar here. What happened to me was that I realized, again, I mean, I knew this cognitively, but now I felt it viscerally, that life is incredibly uncertain. And I thought to myself, if I look back on this period of time and I say to myself, all I did was I kept working harder. I kept moving against what was trying to happen. I kept trying to force things to happen. Then I realized I might have missed the beauty that's right here, which was that my daughter and her boyfriend had to move into our home. You know, that my life on the road just stopped in an instant. And all of a sudden I was at home. I've been home since February 29th. I have never been in my house this long in 12 years. And so that was a gigantic shift. And so I asked myself the question, what really matters now? And this is what I came up with. The first one is, shockingly, to enjoy life. I started looking around my house and I thought, God, this is a beautiful house. This is a gorgeous place to be. We have a stream running in our backyard. We have trees. I have everything I need. And by pursuing all those other outward things that you saw on the previous forces map and what matters to me, I was out in the world a lot and I wasn't truly enjoying what I actually already had. So that's part of it. And another thing, this sort of sounds like doing nothing, but it's actually quite active. This idea of sense my place in the whole. I still do believe that Agilists have a role in helping us deal with these planetary, gigantic systemic issues, these worldwide crises, of which this pandemic is probably not the last. But instead of doing something actively about it, since I'm now grounded in my home, because I'm not going to co-deploy with a disaster relief group right now, I'm not going to take the chance of bringing COVID back into my house to compromise my husband, who's coming up on 70 years old. So in lieu of doing those outward things, what can I do that is equipping me better to be a better match for the future world? And so I've done things like taking somatic and trauma-informed coaching classes, because I figure those are going to be useful skills to have. The other thing that that really felt so strong to me is, like, instead of creating a bunch of new content, because people are so overwhelmed with new content right now. That's what I feel anyway. I feel like as soon as everything went online, all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, all these things to grab our attention. And so I had this idea, instead of creating a lot of new content, consolidate the gifts I already have. Like, think about what I've already created that could be useful for navigating this time, not for stuffing ourselves full of new things for some future time that may or may not come the way we imagine. And so that's a really different forces map, isn't it? I mean, it's like totally, totally different. And it has really served me. And then, sort of shockingly, but also not shockingly, because this is sort of the way the world works, along the way, those leadership teams I wanted to work with have actually knocked on my door. So some of that is starting up, and I can actually feel that this priorities map, this list of what matters to me, might shift again as business comes back online and more of those things start happening. So that's what happened for me. And what the message I want to deliver to you is that I really was grateful for the personal agility system, because it was that discipline of asking what would give me a fulfilled life, what matters to me. Okay, therefore, what am I going to do this week? That allowed me to realize that I had to reorient. So this is sort of the set of questions that I'd like all of us to consider together. Is like, yes, we can be looking out toward the future, but the present is here, right? So like, and in the present, we are still in a pandemic, and people are still dying. We are about to reach 1 million deaths worldwide. That is a crazy number for the day and age that we're in, and for all the advances and all the advantages we have going for us. So let's not skip the fact that we're not out of this yet. And so I just want to invite the possibility that for some people, it could be slowing down. For others, it could be kicking it up a notch. Maybe this is actually the perfect time to start that business, for example. But for sure, it's saying yes and no to different things. And for me, having the discipline of personal agility and having to ask the question again, what really matters now, in the situation we're in now, has really helped me be clear about saying yes and no. And then also, everything that we used to do in the past wasn't necessarily good for us. So another question I have for me and for all of us is, what of that old way of working do we refuse to carry into our present and into the future? And what do we need to pick up? Because there have been these sort of unexpected gems from the stay-at-home time, in particular for me, and I'm hearing that from a lot of people. So this is just sort of a list of what I've been saying, right? So those of you who are getting started with personal agility, and those of you who are realizing, gosh, I keep trying to plan things, and it just doesn't seem to match up to the things I said were important or what really matters. These are some questions to help you further inquire into what you need now, what really matters now. And I'll make this available to you all because I realize there's a ton of text on this slide. And what I really want to do is stop sharing now and just give you a couple more words, and then we'll open it up for questions. As a society, and especially, gosh, pretty much in all of the areas that we all work in, the way we live our lives, we have been getting to a lot of unsustainability. You can probably feel it in the way you're asked to work in your organization. You can probably feel it in the way that our economic systems reward growth for growth's sake, and we just keep going and going and going. So there's a possibility to honor the pause button that the pandemic pushed for us, and to say, okay, what matters to me now, and how can I work with what's happening? How can I actually even be kind to myself and to my family, to my community? How can I shift what I'm doing? For example, I'm doing a lot of community outreach kind of work right now, which I never would have had time to do before. So I just want to bring in the possibility that while personal agility is amazing at helping you just like achieve, get more, have more fulfillment, yes, that all that energy like that, it's also possible to help you broaden and settle and reconsider. And I think that's the phase I'm in, is sort of a broadening and settling and reconsidering. So that's what I wanted, the messages I wanted to share with you today, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with Q&A that Piali is going to help us moderate.
Lyssa, you took us to the meditative state.
Yeah, thank you, Shweta. I'm glad that you felt it that way.
On that note, I would request all to please share your thought, your questions, whatever you want to share with us, with Lyssa. Please feel free to chime in here and type your questions, thoughts in the chat box. Okay, so the first comment question I can see here, Lakshmikant. What would be a difference between OKR and personal agility? They both seem similar. Okay, so Maria, would you like to chime in here? Difference between OKR and personal agility, or they are similar? Like, what would you like to say here?
Yeah, so I want to talk about what I believe makes personal agility more unique, and I'll invite Peter to also add his thoughts. With the personal agility system, it's based around more of a feeling and like tapping into what matters to you. So it's getting toward something around happiness and fulfillment, not just achieving goals. Right? So we know Agile works really well for getting work done, getting products launched to market, but it's not just about getting requirements achieved. There's an additional layer that I think is really powerful, and it taps into your feelings and what kind of fulfillment you have in the things that you achieve. So I think that when you look at the personal agility system, it's going to be taking one step back when you ask that question about what really matters, and you're looking at the things and visualizing where you spend your time and what you do. It's not just about getting stuff done. It's about how do you feel about what you got done? And how does that roll up into the bigger picture of your life and satisfaction? And I think that that's something that a lot of other approaches and systems don't really touch on. And so that's something that for me was pretty meaningful. I've used Agile in my life to get stuff done, and it's a slippery slope on trying to keep a sustainable pace. And so what personal agility does is it invites us to take that step back and look at the bigger picture and say, of all the things that I am doing, is this the right stuff? And how do I feel about that? And does that contribute to the quality of my life in the way that I want it to?
Yes, and I would add here, if we say that, okay, OKRs is a representation of what really matters, personal agility takes it a step further and says, how do you connect what really matters to what you do? Okay, so, we talk about this, what you did makes you who you are, and what you do makes you who you want to be. And so the idea is personal agility is the simple, it's really a coaching framework. It's at its heart, it's these collection of questions, perhaps this attitude towards yourself, which you can also apply to others. But the idea is to say, okay, I am somebody, I want to become somebody, and what am I going to do that's going to help me become that somebody? Okay, and that's setting your course. That's what we call it, choosing your life. You celebrate your life and then you choose your life. You set the course moving forward, and that helps you become the person you want to be. So back to you, Piali.
Yep. So,
and maybe, maybe if the person could give us a wave and say, have we answered the question? Does that give them what they were looking for? Maybe just a comment in the chat that yeah, it's really done. Okay, that sounds like a thank you. So I guess that was good. So back to you, Piali.
Sure. So here we have next, Nilanshi says, thank you, Lyssa, for such a thoughtful session. Thank you, Nilanshi. We have another question here, Naga Venkata. Okay, I'm not pronouncing the full name here. Sorry, Naga. The question is, the Scrum's 10th principle talks about simplicity. That's the art of maximizing the amount of work not done. How does personal agility is different than this? So Peter, would you like to chime in here?
Sure. Okay. And actually, that's really that was the starting point for personal agility, because before I was doing personal agility, I was doing desktop Kanban, which is basically you've got these little tickets going around your notebook, waiting, working, and done. And the problem is I had so many tickets that were waiting. I had filled the three edges of the monitor or of the screen on my notebook, and then I had an external screen and it went around them. And I discovered that the problem wasn't minimizing my work in progress. I was fairly good at that. The problem was, what do I do with this huge backlog that no matter how fast I get things done, it just keeps growing, okay? And so personal agility is all about minimizing the work not done, okay? Because basically, every week you've got probably something on the order of 50 hours of useful capacity that you can use to get things done, either for work or for your personal life. And, anything else, you can go beyond that for short periods of time, but it's basically not sustainable. So the amount of time that you have is limited. The demands on your time, with stakeholders, with family, with government, and who knows what, the demands on your time are unlimited, okay? So that means by definition, some things aren't going to get done. And the idea is to be intentional about choosing. Well, I want to make sure that I get things done that are important to me, and some things are less important. And so if I get to the end of the week and some things aren't done, I want them to be the things that are the least important or going to cause the least amount of harm if I don't do them. So it's really all about the 10th principle. That's at the core of personal agility, in my humble opinion. So maybe take this back to Lyssa. It's funny, you got the question about what's the difference between personal agility and personal Kanban, and that inspired me to think really deeply about it, which is why, so I want to give you a shout out and a thank you right now.
Yeah, well, thank you, Peter. Yeah, because I did a session on personal agility at the Agile Virtual Summit, and that was one of the questions that came up. And oh boy, I tell you, the thing I want to just impress upon you is that there's no competition between the Agile principles and personal agility. And there's no competition between personal Kanban and personal agility. Like, we're all singing from the same sheet of music here, right? And the the idea that personal agility rides on top of the Agile values and principles is something I just really want to underscore here.
Sure. So on that note, moving ahead, let's see what all questions we have. There are few thank you notes for Lyssa.
Yeah,
I can
thank
see
you,
Lyssa
everyone.
has,
It's very sweet.
yeah, Lyssa has appreciated those thank you notes. Next, we have Murali saying, hey, Lyssa, if you rewrite the book on coaching agile teams, what would you do differently?
Well, I have had a lot of time to think about that question lately because what I realized at the very beginning of this pandemic is that the Coaching Agile Teams book is selling more now in its 10th year than it has at any other period of time. And that shocked me. I mean, it shocks the publisher, it shocks everyone. It's just an unusual thing to have happen. And so I realized that book is not done in the world. And so I made the suggestion, and the publisher accepted it, for me to record the audiobook for Coaching Agile Teams. And just yesterday, everyone, I recorded the last 3 lines of that audiobook. So the last 3 corrections. Wow. Yeah. So that audiobook will be coming out in October and November period, and it'll be on Audible. You can get it at Amazon and all that, which I'm excited about because so many people can't get the print book. Now, so I had to encounter this question that you've asked. Should I write a second edition before recording the audiobook? And as I looked at the book itself, I'm like, nope. I stand behind all of this 10 years later. All of this is still what we're working with. We are not past it by any means. And at the same time, there are areas that other people have deepened in the Agile world and also in the allied disciplines outside the Agile world. So I recorded the book mostly as is, although created a bunch of usability features and bonuses and stuff like that, which is really cool. And in lieu of writing a second edition, which basically would be me just compiling other people's work, which didn't feel right to me, what I'm doing is recording at least a 10-episode podcast with the Women in Agile podcast, and that will start coming out in a late October period. So look for womeninagile.org/CAT so you can follow along and get those episodes. And in those episodes, I'm pointing to like all the stuff that I would have slightly changed to your question, like what would you redo? But more importantly, I'm pointing to the other work that people have done that's good work and does not need to be duplicated by me.
Well said, Lyssa. Very well said. Okay, moving ahead. Nagini says, great insights into personal agility from you, Lyssa. I could relate to most of your journey.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it resonates because it's not, the message I have to deliver to you guys is not like a rah, rah, let's go get them. It's more like a, holy crap, what are we going to do now? You know, so I appreciate your reception of that.
Sharon says, Fab, so helpful for me and others. That's awesome. Okay. Thanks, Sharon. You found this session helpful and relate to so many of the thoughts. Shweta says, congratulations, Lyssa, on completion of the audiobook. Okay, there are a couple of more pointers for your audiobook, Lyssa. People are eagerly waiting for that.
It's exciting. I would love to hear from the culinary queen. I saw that she said she wanted to share earlier. Sharon, you don't know it, but I have shared your story before, and so it's nice to see you here. You're on mute, babe.
Sorry. It's nice to finally meet you also. And every time you share my story, Maria, make sure that I know that you do. So I'm so thankful that you are one of my cheerleaders. Thank you. Thank you. What I wanted to share today with you and just listening to your story is, you know, like what were we supposed to do during this pandemic? And with my job, I'm always around people and I'm taking care of people with the food that I cook, and I got sent home. And so it really made me take a look at, you know, what really matters to me right now. And one of those things was looking at my original priorities map was my health. That was the one thing on my what really mattered to me, my 3 things that did not get paid attention to like the other 2 things. And so Maria and I and another friend decided we were going to pay attention to it, and I went into Maria's system and created a what really priorities map for health and wellness, and we've been meeting for the past 19 weeks now, and I have lost 38 pounds. I've had an 8-pound lean muscle gain. I've lost over 18 inches. Maria has lost over 20 pounds. My girlfriend Jennifer has lost about 25 now. We meet every week, and it really has, it's done a lot for us, even just beyond the weight loss. It's a lot of the emotional that we've tapped into. We've grown in so many areas by honing in on that one thing that really mattered to us. And then we took, you know, like we took a priorities map. The health and wellness is what we're going to concentrate. And we did the 3 what really matters to us in health and wellness. And we're building this beautiful crumb trail that I just think that is really going to help a lot more people. And so I really appreciate what you're saying about how to just redirect in this time. And what I've noticed from that, even now, my business is even starting to do better again now, and I feel better, and I'm just elated to have had that pause button.
I love that. A shared personal agility board. That is awesome.
It's great, actually. Well, thank you again, and I hope that in the near future, when it is plausible, that we will actually get to meet, and I will get to give you a big hug, because that's who I am.
Me too. Me too. I love it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon, for
Thank you,
being
Sharon.
here. And yeah. Okay, let's move ahead. We have few more notes and question. Again, people are waiting for Lyssa's audiobook. It's exciting. Okay. Ashish has a long question. Let me try to read it out. So he says, it has been really tough to zero in on what really matters in this fast-paced world. A lot of new things are very exciting to me, and it's really tough to pick just 2 or 3 from the lot. What questions should I be asking myself in terms of finding those 2 to 3 things out of the lot of all things I want to do? Maria, would you like to chime in?
I would love to chime in on this. And this reminds me of a couple of years ago, I was meeting with another Agilist coach and trainer, Savannah Rayett. And I remember that we were putting together her priorities map, and she had like, I want to say 13 things that really mattered to her. And as we made this list, it's like, okay, let's look at this, right? We're meeting over dinner and we're looking at her priorities. And I was like, well, Savannah, is this in the priority order? And she's like, well, yeah. And I said, well, can we try to get it down to 3 or 4? And she had such a tough time narrowing it down to 3 or 4. She's like, but Maria, all these things are important to me. And so as we looked at narrowing it down, what's really interesting is that she did narrow it down to 4 items, and they were the top 4 on the list of 13 items. And so I would encourage you to make the list of all the things that you think that matter. And maybe even look at, you know, you could draw them out on a piece of paper, and visualization is so powerful. So if you've got like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you can list them out, look at what's the progress of what you've made on each of these items over the last however long, and see, are you making progress in any areas, or is it just a little bit of progress? And you know, so you can look at, in actuality, how much progress are you making in these areas from what you feel, and then also look at what is the highest priority, because I've seen this happen with other people too. The highest priority are their top 3 to 4 items, even if it's a longer list. And so, you know, go through the exercise of listing it out and like ask yourself these questions and say, or maybe you could say, hey, these are the items that I've actually made more progress in. These actually stand out. These should be in my top 3, right? And so you can kind of splice and dice and kind of look at these things from different angles. to get to that point of uncovering what really matters, one of my favorite things to do is to make the list of what did you do last week, the week before that, the last month. Like look at your email, look at your text message, your phone calls. There's clues everywhere on where you spent your time. Look at your calendar. And then say, well, that's apparently what mattered because that's what I did. Is that what I want to choose moving forward? And if not, what would you put in place of some of those things? And so like there's some different techniques you can do to visualize. But interestingly enough, it's often the top 3 to 4 things that still end up being the top 3 to 4 things from what I've seen.
That's a nice one. So Maria, that's again breadcrumbs, what we keep doing unconsciously.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
And for me, like the top thing is enjoy life right now. And in the prior one, it was to have ample time to do everything that I'm doing well. And those are things I actually have to force myself to do. So what happens for me is I plan out my next week and I look and see how it maps to my priorities map. And then invariably I won't have enough dark green in there because dark green is my color for enjoy life. And I'll have to tell myself, what am I going to do to consciously enjoy my life this next week? And can I still do these other things? So even though for some, like in my case, the top thing is if it's something that's not ingrained as a habit or I'm not being forced to do it by something else, I have to force myself, and this helps me.
I think for me, this has been, kind of a continual challenge because there's always something something else that's cool that I could do. But, the reason we said if too many things matter, then nothing matters. It's a simple reality. If you're trying to do too many things, you're not going to get much progress done on any of them. Okay. And so, like if you've got one side business, it's hard enough to get one side business to bootstrap, but imagine trying to bootstrap 2 side businesses at once. And out of these 50 hours of waking time that you have to do kind of what we'll call work, 40 is taken by your employer if you're lucky. Then you've got 10, which you could use for yourself. But if you've got 2 things that matters, well, they're only going to get 5. And you're probably going to waste at least 2 of them deciding what to do next. So you've really only got 8. So, and kind of the more you have, the slower you are, and you don't actually get anything done. Okay. So trying to remember who this was. In one of my classes, someone said, time is the most valuable currency you have. Okay. Because you only get to use it once. Okay. With the possible exception of your health, everything else can be replaced. Okay, but your time, you only get to use it once. And so the idea is to say, well, who do I want to be? And if there's no particular destination, if you don't have, we call it Jamaica. I've got one person who actually literally wants to go to Sri Lanka. If there's no Jamaica in your life, well, then it's okay. Then you can do whatever you want and have fun and enjoy life. But if you actually have a goal, if you actually want to be someone, well, the more goals you have, the harder it is to achieve them. And so, it's your boat. You get to decide. Is it really satisfying to you and helping you get where you want to go, pursuing all of these different things? And if the answer is yes, well, it's your boat. That's good. And if the answer is no, and this is what personal agility is trying to give you the visibility, is to say, am I achieving what I want to achieve? If the answer is no, well, okay, that's fine. Where's your Jamaica? And with your next celebrate and choose, celebrate that you've decided you want to go to Jamaica and, choose to do some things which will get you there.
Yeah.
Back to you, Piali.
That was very thoughtful of you, Peter. Like if you have no goal, then yeah, keep enjoying your life. If you have a goal and then you need to think like what you are doing, is it helping to reach you there or not? Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we have come to the end of the session time-wise, but then here I would extend it for a few more minutes. Couple of things. I can see Maria has put here that please feel free to share your feedback and what was your favorite part of this session today. Yeah, that's a very interesting thought you have put here, Maria. And before we wrap this session, I would request you, Peter, to share your closing thought, any important update from personal agility which you would like to share with all of us anything from your side. So over to you, Peter.
Okay, well, the thing I'm most excited about right now is we are now starting to build our network of ambassadors and trainers, of people who are sharing the sharing personal agility so that you can apply it in your life or to your companies. And one of the things that's really becoming clear is that personal agility is just universally useful. Part of getting this stuff done was doing all of our case studies, and we've got everything from people turning their lives around with one-man companies, entrepreneurs getting started, executives running their company, a company turnaround, where they were going from red ink to black ink. It's just useful almost everywhere. Okay, and so I'm really excited about sharing it. So what I'd like to do is, we're now, as I say, we completed our first course. Janani Lianaj in Sri Lanka is now our first recognized trainer who's authorized to give trainings. Jim Hannon and a couple of others are close on their heels. And so I expect that this network is going to start to grow fairly quickly. I put the link for upcoming events on the Personal Agility Institute website. There you will find both courses and webinars. Like I had a keynote speech at the Italian Agile Day. So if you want to find out what's going on there, that's a place to go. I'd like to invite Lyssa and Piali and Maria. I will also do this as well. Put your LinkedIn contacts in the into the chat. So if anyone would like to connect with us, I know I'd be very happy to connect with you and stay in touch. And with that, I say it's your boat, happy sailing. And thank you so much, Piali, for organizing this. Lyssa, thank you for taking the time to join us. It's been an amazing event, and I see the aha moments coming off of the chat. So it's been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And yeah, I will just put my LinkedIn here. And thank you all for joining us this evening. Once again, thanks to Lyssa and Peter and Maria. So yeah, here we are. Couple of notes from my side. We will be sharing the recording of this session. And I can see couple of questions and note we were not able to address due to the time boxing. So Peter, Maria and Lyssa all are putting our LinkedIn here. So if you want to get in touch with any of us, please feel free to do so. And yeah, we would come back in October sometime with another session and one more exciting story to share with all of you. On that note, I would take a leave from all of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Piali. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Lyssa. Thank you, Peter.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, Lyssa,
Thanks,
Peter.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Piali.